Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Basically, what we have been discussing till now, okay, different type of arbitrary excitations, okay, and the response of single degree of freedom system subject to those arbitrary excitation. So we studied in general how to derive the response, okay, or how to get the response using Duhamel integral, and then we did basically step force, okay, then ramp loading, which is basically a step force with finite rise time, okay, over a time duration tr, and then we got into finding out the response to pulses. So as we described, pulse is basically a finite duration loading, okay, that is applied basically over a finite amount of time and then it is removed. Okay, so this is a pulse type motion, and basically we discussed how to get the response subject to this basically pulse of type is rectangular pulses, and then we also discuss triangular pulses. Okay, and we said that we are going to utilize the same procedure for all different type of pulses. Okay, so one other pulse that is remaining, or like that I would just like to mention, okay, is sine type pulse excitation. Okay, and for all these, the equations of motions only differ in terms of the excitation, the force pt that is applied. Okay, so for example, if we have a sine pulse duration of p naught, and so this is a half sine pulse, okay, then you can go ahead and write down the pt for this as p naught times sine, let us say, pi t by td. Okay, and this is for values smaller than td, and this is equal to 0 for t greater than td. So again, you can follow the same procedure to find out the response, okay, considering the forced vibration phase and then the free vibration phase. Okay, and then you can get the overall peak response. All right, so I'm not going to get into that. You can refer to any standard textbook and you can have those graphs. What is important for all these type of pulses is to find out finally this value here, which is, let us say, something like this. So let us say this is RD, which is basically peak dynamic by peak static displacement. So this is what is important. Okay, find out the response spectra, because once you have the response spectra, okay, we did a problem in the last class that you can go ahead and find out what are the properties time period Tn, and if the load pulse duration has been given to you, you can go ahead and find out for that particular value of Td by Tn what is the Rd, and if Rd is known, you can find out the dynamic displacement by multiplying it with peak static displacement, which is P naught by K. Okay, and then you can further utilize that U naught to find out the forces in the structural members or stresses in the structural members. Both we did in the last class. Okay, the last problem that we discussed. Okay, so this is what is important. And once you understood the procedure, how to find out the response, remember, always divide response in two phases. One is when time is basically time is smaller than td, and when it is greater than td. Okay, so let us say it is smaller than td and then it would be greater than td. And for peak responses, you might have to consider whether td is smaller than tn by 2 if it is a step force. Okay, so if it is the rectangular pulse, okay, not step force, rectangular pulse, or whether it is sine pulse. And also you could also have a triangular pulse like this, not like this. Okay, so for these three cases, Tn by 2 is the value. Okay, that if Td is smaller than Tn by 2, then the peak response occurs, okay, during the free vibration phase. And if Td is greater than Tn by 2, so let me write it here. If Td, this value is smaller than Tn by 2, then peak response during free vibration phase. If it is greater than Tn by 2, then peak response, okay, during forced vibration phase. And we saw that why that happens. We solved the equation of motion for this step force, and we saw that based on free vibration response and the forced vibration response, why does that happen? So that is Tn by 2, except the triangular loading, okay, the half triangular loading, for which the value was actually Td by Tn not equal to half but 0.3771. Okay, so if Td is smaller than 0.3771, then my peak response occurs during the free vibration phase. If Td is greater, okay, then it occurs during the forced vibration phase. All right. So these are different cases for which we have derived the response. Okay. Understanding the behavior is more important, okay, rather than remembering the equation. Now, let us say, okay, we consider three type of pulses, and let me give you example of those three type of pulses. In one case, I have rectangular pulse. All of these are variation of force versus time. In the second case, I have a half sine pulse. In the third case, I have a triangular pulse. All of them have amplitude equal to P naught. Okay, and time duration Td. Okay, now if a single degree of freedom system is subject to all three pulses, and I'm giving you that my Td is actually greater than Tn by 2. Okay, or let us say Td by Tn is much greater than 1. So there is no confusion at all. Okay, so basically the duration of these pulses are much greater than the time period of the system. Which one, okay, without going into calculation or anything, which one do you think lead to the largest response in the single degree of freedom system? Whether it is the rectangular or whether it is the half sine pulse or whether it is the triangular. Which one do you think would lead to the maximum response in the system? Anyone? Can you answer me?
Rectangular.
Rectangular. Anyone else? Why do you think rectangular would lead to the maximum response?
So because P0 it is increasing at t equal to 0. For others it is gradually increasing. So,
Yeah. So basically, one of the parameter that decides which one is going to give you the maximum response is the rapidity of the force. Okay, remember that we discussed when we had this ramp loading here. Okay, and we consider in terms of ramp loading, this as you decrease the TR, your response amplification was actually increasing. Okay, so for a sudden loading, okay, where TR was almost 0, your RD was approximately equal to 2. And that was also, we also found that out when we plotted the RD versus TD by Tn for pulse type, okay, motion, or for the rectangular pulse. We saw that up to a value, let us say it actually goes like this. Remember this curve, okay, and this is horizontal. Okay, so this was 0.5 before which, okay, this, remember this was 2 sine pi Td by Tn. Okay, so this was the expression. This was for rectangular pulse. Okay, so the maximum amplification already could go up to value of 2 depending upon the Td by Tn value. But if you draw the same thing Rd by T for a sine pulse, half sine pulse or triangular pulse, these would look like, let us say this is 1 here and this is 2. Okay, so it would look like, it would be of course greater than 1. Okay, but it would look like something like this with a smaller initial slope. Okay. Okay, something like that. This is not very exact, but that's just a representative of what you would see. So this is the top one is for the rectangular. The second one is for basically half sine pulse. And so one of these for half sine pulse, one of these for the triangular. The way to determine that is again looking at the rapidity of the loading. For example, if you look at sine pulse has greater initial slope than the triangular pulse here. Okay, for the same given TD and P naught. Okay, so if it has greater initial slope, basically the load is applying much faster. Okay, I mean not much faster, but like faster than the triangular load here. So it leads like higher response. Okay, although not substantially higher. Okay, compared to the triangular loading. Okay, so this is the parameter that is important. Okay, when TD by TN is greater than 1. Okay, so whenever you have any arbitrary load, okay, for which TD is greater than TN, then what have you observed from this? The first thing I know that my peak response occurs during the forced vibration phase. Okay, so let us say it occurs during the forced vibration phase. So peak response TD is greater than TN. So peak response during forced vibration. Okay, second thing that we need to understand here, and if the peak response occurred during the forced vibration, we saw that the shape of the curve playing a big role in the total response of the system. Okay, so if it had rectangular, it led to higher amplification factor. Okay, how? And if it was a half sine, it led to smaller amplification with a smaller initial slope. And then when we had the triangular, it further led to smaller amplification. Okay, so when TD by TN is greater than 1, the peak response, of course, would occur during the forced vibration phase. Okay, and for those cases, the shape of the pulse actually matters. Okay, now we are going to consider other case in which TD by Tn is smaller than 1. So let us consider any arbitrary pulse which look like something like this. Okay, not a very good pulse. Let us say do it like this. Okay, so this is any arbitrary pulse. Okay, and let us say Tn is here. This is TD. So now TD is much smaller than 1, TD by Tn. Okay, now for these cases we have already discussed that peak response occurs during free vibration phase. Okay, during free vibration. Okay, and for those cases, okay, if I assume this condition that TD is a very small, this one is very small, can I find out my total impulse as PT by dt 0 to TD? And this I can use for any type of pulse. It does not have to be rectangular pulse or sine pulse or triangular pulse. Any arbitrary pulse, I can just take the time integration of the force and find out the total response. Now, if you remember, response basically impulse leads to initial velocity, correct? So impulse is equal to momentum, which is mass times initial velocity. Okay, so this leads to initial condition of mass is equal to I by m. And if you have free vibration, remember this is free vibration now. If you have a free vibration with initial velocity, and remember u0 is 0 because impulse does not lead to any displacement. It only leads to initial velocity. You can write ut as u dot 0 by omega n sine omega nt, which can be written after substituting this as I by m omega n sine omega nt. All right. Now, can you imagine if this condition is satisfied, TD by Tn is much smaller than 1. Okay, and I have got my impulse using this expression. As long as my impulse is same, okay, you can see here, as long as my impulse, it only depends on the total impulse. Okay, it does not depend on, okay, whether shape is this or whether shape is this or whether shape is this. As long as my TD by Tn is much smaller than 1, then for all three of them, I can find out the responses I divided by m omega n sine omega nt. Okay, and this expression is valid, okay, for all the short pulses. Okay, so what do we mean by short pulses? when TD by Tn is much smaller than 1. Now I have to find that out. I mean, what do you mean by much smaller than 1? Is it 0.5? Is it 0.25? Okay, and that you can actually go ahead, okay, and draw basically the same response spectrum. So let me now consider same 3 pulses. Remember, in this case, when I consider 3 pulses, the magnitude, the peak and the basically the amplitude and the durations were same. However, the area in this case was P naught TD. The area in this one, I think, would be P naught pi TD, okay, by 4, I think. Okay, I'll have to check that, but I think that is the area. And in this case, it would be half pi naught TD. Okay, now if you consider same 3 pulses, but now the amplitude and the amplitude is somehow changed so that all of 3 of them would lead to the same area. Okay, so what I'm saying now, let me consider the same 3 pulses with this is P naught here, or let us consider P naught by 2, and this is TD. Okay, and then for the sine pulse, I'm going to consider this as pi P naught by 4, and this is TD. Okay, and this one is P naught by TD. Now, if you try to calculate the area for all 3 of these, this would be half P naught TD. This would be half P naught TD, and this would again be pi P naught by 4 times TD. Okay, so this would be half P naught TD again. Okay, the area is actually this peak times this, okay, divided by 2 pi, I think. Okay, so you can go ahead, I think 2 by pi times this area. Okay, you can go ahead and utilize that. So I think this one here should be not this, but actually 2 by pi times P naught times TD. Okay. All right. So now these three pulses have the same area, and either you can utilize the expressions that we have derived for this one. We have derived for this, and we have we have derived for half triangular. But you can go ahead and derive for this and plot RD as function of T by TD. Okay, and then you can see what do you get. So what you can do, you can plot it. Okay. And let me say I'm drawing here not RD, because remember RD is U naught by P naught by K, where P naught is the amplitude. However, in this case, the amplitude is P naught by 2. So instead, let me draw this P naught by K here, and I won't call it UST naught, because for rectangular pulse, it is not UST naught. So this looks like something like this. Okay, now let me just redraw it. Okay, so this is the shape of a rectangular pulse. Always remember that. Okay, and the sine pulses are actually something like this. Okay, so again, this is not very exact. Okay, so this first one is of course my my rectangular pulse, and these ones are sine pulses and then triangular pulses. Okay, so for in this case, what you will see, all right, in this case is what you will see that for, let us say this is 0.5, around this point. Okay, in the initial part, which is around this, okay, and the ratio actually comes out to be 0.25. Okay, so when TD by Tn is actually smaller than 0.25, then my approximation that I can represent, okay, all these pulses as impulses would be very accurate. Okay, when this condition is satisfied, okay, that the duration of load is less than 1/4 of the duration of time. And this is basically based on observation. There is no methodological way to derive this. What you can do, you can do two things here. You can either go through the conventional method, assuming that it is not an impulse, and then you can use the expression. Remember, we had derived that ut, okay, equal to u dot td cos omega n t minus td. Okay, and then u dot, sorry, this is u here, u dot td omega n sine omega n t minus td. Okay, and you already have at the end of the free vibration what is u of td and u dot of td. So remember, we had derived this expression for the rectangular pulses. So use the detailed expression, find out what you get as ut. Okay, you will get some response. Okay, you will get something like, let us say this is static, so it would look like initially something like this, and then it would come like this. Okay, now maybe this is not a correct representation, because for short pulses it would look like something like this. Okay, the peak response would occur after the forced vibration phase. So let us say it looks like something like this. Okay, not even not, this is not a correct representation, sorry for that. It would look like, let us say this, so that it is still increasing and the peak response occurs during the free vibration phase. Okay, so now this occurs during the free vibration phase. Okay, so you can go ahead, use the basically the exact expression to find out the response, or you can utilize this expression assuming it to be an impulse. Okay, and finding out with these initial condition what is this free vibration. What you will see when this pulse area is very small, okay, or when Td by Tn is very small, this is like, let's say 0.25, then this peak is approximately equal to the same peak that you derive through this expression. Okay, and this is based on developing this equation of motion and comparing the response value. So 0.25 is a good approximation, that if my Td by Tn is smaller than 0.5, I can represent it this type of any loading. Does not have to be, as I said, because shape does not matter now. So when it is an impulse, all it matters is the area. Okay, all it matters is the area under the force. Okay, so it does not matter whether it is this or any random loading, as long as area is same. Okay, you will get the same expression for ut. Okay, and utilize that to get the peak response. And what is that peak response here? Okay, for this case, what is the peak response? This is nothing but I m omega n, right? The coefficient of sine omega nt. But remember, this is the case for undamped vibration. And one of you asked, basically for damped vibration, what you will see. Okay, for short pulses, what happens? Okay, for short pulses, something like this. Okay, whether the peak response occurs during the forced vibration phase or free vibration phase, because of the finite duration of the loading, there's not much energy dissipated in the system. Okay, so the peak response, by the time peak response is actually achieved, okay, remember, you cannot categorize a continuous loading like this, which is a step force, as a pulse loading. Pulse loading has finite TD, and it depends whether the peak response occurs during the forced vibration phase or whether it occurs during the free vibration phase. Okay, basically the peak response, when it is achieved, there always a finite number of, okay, so there's always a finite number of cycles before the peak responses occur. For in this case, it is 1. And if it occurs after this, again, it would be 1. So response in this case is, remember, damping does not matter that much as it was the case for harmonic loading, in which the steady state, as you applied the loading, what happened? Okay, let us say it increased the response, something like this, and then a steady state is achieved. Okay, so the energy is dissipated over several cycles before the steady state is achieved. And in that case also, remember, we were talking about the steady state response. We were not talking about the transient response. Remember this expression that we had derived, the peak response, okay, divided by UST naught was 1 by 2 zeta for the cases when omega by omega 1 equal to 1, right? This was both for the case when the frequency, the excitation frequency was close to the resonance. Okay, and what we saw, if you increase the damping, let us say from 1 to 10%, okay, my U naught actually decreased. Okay, it decreased from, let us say, 10 to 1 because it is inversely proportional to the damping here. So the damping had a huge effect on the total response. Okay, however, for the pulse type motions, okay, and you can see that how many cycles are actually it goes through before it achieves the steady state response. However, for pulse type durations, the loading is so short that the structure does not get enough time to react. And how is energy dissipated in a structure? Because of relative movement between the structure, right? Because of deformation. Although we approximate it as a viscous damping, okay, all those mechanisms. But remember, if the structure is steady, not moving, not deforming, there won't be any energy dissipation. Okay, energy is dissipated because there is relative movement in the joints, there is relative movement at the molecular level, it creates friction, it leads to dissipation of energy. Okay, when you have a pulse type motion, structure does not have that much time to react, so the damping effect is much less. Okay, so let me write it here. For pulse type excitations, the effect of damping is much smaller, compared to, okay, compared to, let us say, harmonic excitations. Okay, so for those excitations, the effect of damping is much smaller. Of course, if you have a very high damping, let us say 40% damping, okay, the response would change, but not as drastically as what you have this. Okay, that if the damping is changed by 1 to 10, okay, then the response is reduced by 10 factors, so almost by 90%. Okay, it does not lead to that much of difference. Okay, so for most of the cases it does not matter that much, but let us say for some problem, if you have told anyway that you have been given an impulse I, okay, and you need to find out what is the ut, okay, for a damped system. Okay, so when the shape does not matter, when Td by Tn, let us say Td by Tn is smaller than 0.25. Remember, any arbitrary shape with damping, I can find out the responses how? I can utilize the unit response function and I can use the Duhamel integral, remember? So for that case, it would be P naught by m omega n e to the power minus zeta omega t minus tau and then sine omega d, right? Remember this is d, this would be d here, omega d. Okay, t minus tau d tau. Okay, for cases where Td by Tn is smaller than 0.5, I can still get this response. Okay, with damping. So you can still get that expression only when Td by Tn becomes greater than, let us say, 0.5, then the shape of pulse matters and then it becomes analytically very complicated to derive all those equations that we have previously derived. And there is not much utility to deriving those equations anyway, because when I neglect damping, okay, the effect is not that much. Okay, when I neglect damping, for pulse type motion, it provides a conservative response. Okay, but if it is has been asked in the problem that you include damping anyway and you find out the response, you can do it for one case where you can consider it to be an impulse. Okay, and for that case, the expression is very easy now. Okay, so whether you have any type of impulse, okay, you can utilize this expression to find that out. Maybe I should not take P naught here outside. I should keep it inside as P tau. Okay, that would be the correct expression. So maybe I should keep it here, P tau times e to the power minus zeta omega n t minus tau. So utilize the same expression. It's not very difficult.